Okay, let's talk about decision rights. What is a decision right? A decision right is when you give someone the authority to make a decision. Pretty simple. And perhaps equally obvious is that decision rights are really important as enablers of momentum in organizations, in teams, in workflow. There are two ways that I see quite a lot of confusion occurring around decision rights in teams and in organizations. So the first is when you, let's draw you as the chief are giving a decision right to someone else. Here's the decision right. And you're saying to someone, I'd like you to make a decision on this. So I'm giving it to you, but I want you to run it past me first. So you've given them the decision, but really you've taken it back by saying, I'd like you to run it past me first. And that might be completely legitimate. And in some ways, you've made it very clear that you're not actually giving them the decision because you said, run it past me first. So in some ways, that's less problematic. It's just important, I think, that you are clear in your own mind, as they are in theirs, that you're not actually giving them the authority on this one. So that's pretty clear and not too much of a problem. The second one is far more tricky. And it really creates, I think, quite a lot of glue in the system. And that's when you give someone the decision right. So you say, I'm giving you this decision. It's yours. I want you to own it. And ultimately, the decision is yours to make. So you're really specific and clear about that. But then what happens is you maybe see some things going on with how the decision is being arrived at or where the direction of travel of that decision, and you maybe challenge it. And that can happen in all manner of ways. But essentially, you're saying, I've got some questions about how you're making that decision. Or maybe I don't even like the decision that you're making. And of course, what's happening there is you're taking back the decision rights. You're taking back authority to make that decision. And it might be that that's legitimate. I mean, it could very well be that there are things going on that you do need to step in and course correct on. But it's really important to understand the consequences of what happens when you do that. Because when you are challenging the person's decision, who you've given the rights to for that decision, I mean, on the one hand, you're communicating, I don't trust your judgment. So that's not great. On the other hand, you're communicating, and this one's a little more subtle, but you may also be communicating, when I give you a decision to make, your job really is to try and figure out what I would like. And my point of view, that's not a great recipe for a high-performing team. I mean, you could argue that, but I would say that's probably not what you want in your team. People just trying to figure out what would you like. But more than both of those things, the real problem with when you take back the decision right is that you've now become the bottleneck in the system, in the workflow, in the ability for the team to get things done. Because although you might not have explicitly said it, you have indicated that you're taking back authority for the decision. And so now nothing can be moved on until the decision has been okayed by you. So you're now the bottleneck. And I would say the real problem with that isn't so much how it relates to this particular decision that you've given authority to someone else to make. It's not so much to do with that. It's more all the other decisions that you're now going to ask people to make on your behalf in the future. Because whilst you're saying, I'm giving this to you, own it, their experience, the experience of your senior leadership team, say, is yes, but we're going to need to check it with you first. So you've become the bottleneck. And that obviously becomes a real problem, and it's probably not what you want either. So the answer is that when you're giving decision rights, you need to be first very conscious of whether or not you are actually giving rights away. And it's completely valid that in plenty of situations, you're deliberately not giving those rights away. That's totally legitimate. But when you are giving them away, you need to be conscious that you are. And when you're not, you need to be conscious that you're not. But the second is to be disciplined, that when you do give rights away, that you're really disciplined in not taking them back. And like we've just explored, that can happen in quite subtle ways. But what I'm going to suggest to you is that the value of an empowered team that's able to move at pace is going to far outstrip the gain or the improvement that you might make on one particular decision by stepping in and taking that decision right back. So I'm going to encourage you to, when you give decision rights away, to stand by that and then stand by your team, whatever decisions they arrive at.